Hi, everybody. Pastor Timothy Muse here, St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Alliance. It's great to be with you in this time. I figured it would be helpful for us to have some conversations about worship, about who we are as a worshiping community, how we worship, why we worship. As we are expanding and our expression is changing, over the past few months, we've been doing a lot of virtual worship. Obviously, we haven't had in-person worship since May. And so a lot of people have kind of looked in on us in new and different ways. And some of it's through connection to Facebook, some of it's through connection to the pastors, some of it's just through a yearning, a desiring, a questioning, a looking. So I thought it would be important and hopefully edifying for us to spend some time talking about who we are as a worshiping community, how we worship, what worship looks like for us as a church, the decisions we make, where our worship comes from, kind of just a whole general idea of who we are as a worshiping community. Because that's primarily who we are. We are primarily a group of people that come together to give thanks to God for the gifts and blessings and struggles in our lives, and then be sent out into the world to do the work of God. That's who we are as a worshiping community. So I figured it would be helpful for those who may be worshiping in this style or work for the first time, or maybe you've been worshiping in this community all your life. But to have a deeper knowledge, a deeper expression, a deeper understanding of who we are as church, of who we are as a worshiping community. So I'm going to do a series of talks and hopefully be able to give some vision, some information. Certainly, it would be much my desire to do this in a dialogical setting where people could ask questions, where people could look for clarity if there's confusion, or we could go deeper on certain topics or ideas, but we're not there right now. So I would certainly encourage you to use the facilities, the comments, the questions, like with my Bible study on Revelation. My contact information will be put out at the end of the session here, so you can reach out to me privately or what have you. You can comment on the video if need be, if you have questions. So please feel free to do that. And we'll do the best we can to try to answer them and work through them accordingly. So thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. So I think primarily the most important thing to understand about us is that we are liturgical. We have a liturgy. Our worship service follows a liturgy. It follows a prescribed path from beginning to end. We in the Lutheran Church call that the shape of the rite. Now, the rite is the action of worship. And our rite has a certain shape to it, okay? I think of, I'm sitting on a couch, okay? Now, a couch has a shape. It's long, something to sit on. Sometimes it's cushy, sometimes it's not. Now, the specifics of the couch, well, that's all determined on the details. But the couch has a shape. And if we were to take that shape and change it into something that has a round seat with three legs, it'd no longer be called a couch. It'd be called a stool. Or if we changed the couch into a chair, it'd be no longer called a couch, it would be called a chair. So when we understand worship to have a certain shape to it. And that's what we as Lutherans choose. We have all come together to say this is the shape of worship for us. This is how we do it. And that's not to say that what we do is perfect or what we do is right, completely right or completely wrong. It just says that this is what works for us. This is what works for us as a community. The shape of our rite works for us as a community. It works for us as a people of God. There are those who it doesn't work for. That's okay. There are those who find our shape to be too rigid. There are those who find our shape to be too freestyle. God has created wondrous variety, and God desires to be worshiped in a variety of ways. I'm not looking to criticize or question anybody else's shape or worship style. All I'm saying is that this is the shape that we have chosen to acknowledge and accept. That we have chosen to acknowledge and accept. We have chosen to enter into this shape, this liturgical style, for the sake of our worship. And for those who enter into it, they find it edifying and praiseworthy. For those who don't, they don't. That's okay. But this is how we do what we do here. This is the choices we as a community have made, that we as a church connecting to the larger church have made. The shape of our rite, it extends back to Martin Luther, who really worked with the German Mass. Martin Luther, our theology and the foundation of our expression comes from Jesus and the Bible, but it flows through the writings, teachings, and the life of Martin Luther. Martin Luther was a Roman Catholic priest and a theologian who sparked really the Reformation. So what we do looks very much like our Roman brothers and sisters in a worshiping style. It has a lot of components that our Roman brothers and sisters do. It is not akin to, equal to, or a mirror image of the Roman Mass, but it's very close to it. It's very close to it in a lot of ways. It has a lot of the movements and the structure that the Roman Mass is going to have. So for those of you who stem from a Roman background, entering into our worship structure is going to look very familiar. It's going to feel very comfortable. There will be places where it's not the same, but it's going to look very comfortable. But we are not Roman in our worshiping style or our theology. We are different, but we have a lot of components that are similar. So that's a big portion. We do have a liturgy. A liturgy. Now, the word liturgy means the work of the people. Okay, so the point of worship for us, it's not a show. It's not it's not a spectator sport. Okay, it is something that is to engage both the leaders and the people. The people are integral part of this. They're an integral part of the worship service. The leader is actually just the one. I, as the pastor, as the worship leader, as one of the worship leaders, I'm just facilitating the work that the people are doing. So it's not about me doing everything or doing the worship and everybody else is kind of sitting back and watching. No, it is meant to be a drawn-in process. So if any of you have worshipped, excuse me for a moment. If any of you are starting to worship with us and you haven't worshiped in a Lutheran structure and a liturgical structure before, and you're following along, the worship outlines that are posted up on the website or up on the blog site, you'll see that it is an interactive thing. There are times of speaking, response, there's singing. This is meant to be something that draws the person into something deeper. So it is meant to be the work of the people. It's one of the big struggles that we have right now in the virtual world is that even though we are gathered together and we're live streaming worship, we're not together as people. So it does create a challenge. But liturgy is the work of the people. It is meant to draw people in. And it's not meant to be perfect. It's not a show. This isn't Broadway here. It is meant to be a little bit messy and a little bit cumbersome. Because we're messy. We're cumbersome as people. We're not perfect as people. We're messy and cumbersome. So that messiness, that cumbersomeness, it does create for us a divine work. But there's beauty in that messiness. And God accepts that messiness as an offering. God doesn't require us to be perfect. God requires us to be faithful. That's what God asks of us, actually, is to be faithful, not perfect. Our worship is faithful, not perfect. I make mistakes. I make a mistake every time I lead worship. People make mistakes, and that's okay. Mistakes happen because this is the work of the people. And people's work is filled with brokenness and sin. So we know that it's going to be messy. But that's the choice we've made as a community. We've made to enter into this worship style that it is the work of the people and not just the work of the leader. Unlike a Broadway play where you pay your money and you go and you get a seat and you watch the actors up on stage doing everything perfectly, that's not the point of worship. The point of worship is to draw people in. And the point of the worship leader, myself or Pastor Diana, or Gina in singing, or Kathy in playing the organ, or the choir, or the lectors, or whoever, their point is to draw the people into the service, into the worship, not to do the work while the people watch. So we're liturgical based. We are based in a structure that is the work of the people. And that's really important to know because that's not necessarily how everybody worship. Now, everybody has a ritual, okay? And I think it's important to understand that there can be a difference between ritual and liturgy. Ritual is the actions that you take, the things that you do. Think about brushing your teeth. Brushing your teeth is a ritual, and you do it. You go into the bathroom, you go to the sink, you get the toothbrush, toothpaste, do the toothpaste on the toothbrush, start to brush, That's a ritual. We have rituals all over the place. How we get dressed, how we drive the car, how we drink our coffee or tea or soda or chocolate milk or whatever we drink. Those are all rituals. And there's even ritual in chaos. Because if you do something different every day, if you brush your teeth differently every day, that's still a ritual. It's just chaos. But chaos can be a ritual. We have our rituals, just like every other church has their ritual. But our ritual is liturgically based. Again, and that's not a criticism of anybody else. That's just how we choose to worship. We choose to worship in a liturgy-based structure where there is a drawing in of the worshiping community. Because the worship is about the people, not about the leader. So we have this liturgical structure that draws people in. Most of our singing is done through hymns, with the worship leader on the organ. We here at St. Paul's, we do have a praise band, and we do praise band worship, not live streaming. We do that live in the outside worship. But our worship structure, again, and this is the choice that the community has made. This is not to say that it is better or worse, right or wrong. It's just to say that this is who we as a people have chosen to be. We as a people have chosen to raise our voice in hymn singing, and do that with the organ and sometimes a piano or handbells as the underpinning or background. This is who we've chosen to be as a people. And that's the basis of who we are. We have chosen the shape as a people. We have chosen liturgy as a people. We have chosen the organ as a people. And we as a people, if we as a people decide that we want to go in a different direction, then we do that as a people. But we're very people-based as a community. This is the choice we've made together as a community. In the following sessions, I'll break down some of the major pieces of the rite, some of the major things we do and why we do them. It's always important to know why you do what you do. Whenever we do something without knowing why, then we lose the power of it. Again, I'll go back to brushing teeth. Why do you brush your teeth? Well, because I've always been told to brush my teeth. Okay, so you're getting the effect of brushing your teeth, but you don't know why. You don't know why you do it. And it's important always to know why we do what we do, because if we don't know why we do what we do and we do it, then we may not agree with it. We may not agree with it. Why do I buy cheap shoes? Well, because they're cheap. But if I don't know why they're cheap, I may not realize that my cheap shoes come on the back of unjust labor. So knowing why we do what we do is really important, because it helps us to be able to enter in to do what we do, or maybe decide that we're not going to do that anymore. And I think we're starting to see a lot of that in our we always see that in our social context and our social advancement, as well as in the church. Why do we do what we do? So over the next few weeks, I'm going to have some sessions on why we do what we do, in worship particularly, for those who have been worshiping with us all their lives, or if you're new to this. If you're new to this liturgical worship, if you're new to this identity, I want you to know why we're doing what we're doing. Again, I'm happy that you're part of it, but I want you to follow along and be able to do it in a manner that is faithful. and why we do what we do. So there'll be some other sessions about worship. Again, if you have questions, if you want to reach out to me, I'll try to answer them either directly or through the videos. But so that's where we begin. That's who we are. We are a liturgical people. We have a shape to our rite, a shape to our worship style that we choose, that we've chosen that over centuries of tradition and experience. It doesn't necessarily make it right or wrong. I don't think right or wrong really plays into it. It works for us. And it's faithful. There's nothing heretical about it. Nothing against the Bible in it. And there's a lot of other worship styles that are the same way. So again, I'm not here to trash or criticize. I'm just here to say this is what we do and this is why we do it. And we go from there with everything around it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I hope this is something that's edifying for you and encouraging for you. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Watch for the Bible studies. They're up on Wednesday mornings, and so that's another way for us to be able to enter into the Scriptures and enter into our life together. So God bless you today, and be well.